Minecraft Classic is a pretty good version of the game, but the internet version that Microsoft released a while ago has some pretty weird bugs. So today I'm going to be going over 42 of them. Here we go. The game doesn't really have a save world button, it just quickly saves the world in the background right as you press the exit tab button. The game will crash occasionally if you play the game for longer than about 30 minutes, depending on how good your computer is. If you turn your frame rate meter on, and then open a different tab, and then switch back to the Minecraft tab, the FPS meter will read an unreasonably low frame rate. There's 16 types of wool, but the color scheme is off. If you right-click and download the background image while a world is generating, the image that is actually downloaded is just a screenshot of the entire window. If you open the pause menu while any of the WASD keys are being pressed, the player will stay moving according to which button was pressed until the menu is closed. You can still move the player while in the block inventory. Occasional graphical glitches can appear towards the top of the screen for no reason. If you move your mouse too sharply, the game will try and correct the movement. Saplings literally don't have any purpose in the game. They don't ever grow into actual trees, and honestly, they really don't have much of a purpose in the real game either. The sapling, flower, and mushroom textures are all smaller than they should be. Breaking glass sounds like stone. You cannot place blocks against the bedrock border blocks, but you can on the bottom bedrock blocks. The weird player dummy things you can spawn by pressing G have an incorrectly rendered model. Water and lava physics are really weird. Sometimes the world can improperly handle world generation colliding with water at the world border. If you enter lava from the air, the screen is tinted red, and water will be blue. But under the right circumstances, these can get mixed up. When using sponges to drain a cave, glitched water block overlays can appear occasionally, regardless of it being within range of a sponge. This one just so happened to be on the block of the sponge. If interfered with, the cave will reflood. Water doesn't behave properly at the world border. Then again, it doesn't really behave properly anyway. If you dig downwards at the world border whilst underwater, clicking faster than the water can fall, the water stops falling at a certain point. Placing a glass block underwater reveals the terrain underneath without a blue overlay. When lava flows into a space, an invisible side of the block is incorrectly rendered. If you build a tower to the height limit and set your respawn at the top, then dig a hole to the bottom bedrock layer at the same coordinates, and then respawn, you'll fall at a certain speed. But press it consecutively about a dozen times and you'll fall faster than had you only pressed it once. Pressing R a gazillion times really rapidly causes the veil of reality to shatter. If the player respawns while moving, the player will be moved in the corresponding direction relative to the direction the player is looking at upon respawn. If you set your respawn point, then place any blocks where the player would spawn, upon respawn you will click into the block mesh and enter spectator mode, kinda. If you jump just before you respawn, your momentum is preserved upon respawn. This is called the jump respawn. If you set your respawn point mid-air and repeatedly jump respawn to gain another block of height, and set your respawn point again at the apex of your jump, you will climb higher and higher. Minecraft has its height limit set to where you cannot build past the sky, but if you jump respawn past it, you'll see that space is actually colored white. If you jump respawn high enough past the sky, you will glitch out of bounds and be unable to fall back to the ground. Jump respawning high enough with fog turned all the way down reveals the end of the sky image. If you place a mushroom on the block, that will cause the mushroom to decay after some time, and place a sand or gravel above the mushroom, then the block just stays in the air. If you dig a 3-block deep hole and place 2 sand above you, you will clip into the block mesh and enter another spectator mode. Everyone knows you cannot get bedrock in the game, it's just not there. But if you dig all the way down to the bottom bedrock layer and right-click and middle-click at the same time on the bedrock, you will literally pick up the bedrock. A glitched texture appears on the slot that you were selecting, which signifies that you're actually holding bedrock. Curiously enough, this bedrock can be placed, but it can't actually ever be broken. If you try and scroll out of the bedrock slot, your game will crash. Funny enough though, you can still navigate the pause menu just fine. If you replace the bedrock slot with another block, which worth noting is that you can only do that in the block inventory, you cannot reacquire the bedrock afterwards. If you replace the bedrock slot with an item already in your hotbar, the bedrock replaces all the slots in between itself and the first slot except for stone. When you have glitched bedrock, selecting an item with the number keys does not work, but attempting to break more hotbar slots results in that item being selected duplicating across your hotbar, replacing in the slot you selected. You can place mushrooms on the sides of blocks without any regard to what's underneath it. If a floating mushroom is placed above water, it has a much bigger shadow than it should, and after the mushroom decays, the shadow doesn't decay with it. Building a tower to the height limit and building a second one, and maybe even more, the first tower's top block face may render incorrectly. Ores literally have no purpose in the game. You can't build with them or use them in any way, so what's the point?